Right now, going to college just got even more expensive. Why couldn't lawmakers act fast enough to prevent this? It's not like they didn't see it coming. And next, we're going to get the inside scoop on D.C. from Congressman Eliot Engel, who will join us on set. Yes, fingers crossed. Will immigration reform die in the House? And what really did our representatives in D.C. know about the NSA spying program before the world found out? We will have the answers. And later, Alec Baldwin and Paula Deen, are the two of them being held to much different standards here for different reasons. Both said very inappropriate things, but no one's calling for Baldwin shows to be yanked off the air. Tonight, we ask why. Good evening, everybody, and welcome to RFL. I'm Richard Frenson. Thanks so much for joining us this Monday evening, July 1st. Believe it or not, we are in July, and Dominic Carter, he will be joining us later. He had a one-on-one this afternoon with Christine Quinn. We'll be bringing those interviews for that mayoral hopeful tomorrow and on Wednesday, but we'll be joining Dominic a little bit later in the program. But we begin tonight with the financial stress that is strangling students, and many argue our economy. College students graduating with more and more debt here while Congress raises interest rates on those student loans. And it goes from a tough situation, Andrew Whitman, to an even harder one for too many families. And stop me if you've heard this before, Rich, but it's something that Congress was aware of and yet failed to get done. The cost of one kind of federal student loan went up today after Congress failed to reach a deal to keep the current interest rates in place on Stafford loans. When Brandon Anderson graduates from Georgetown University next year, his sociology degree comes with a starting salary of $26,000 and a mountain of debt.
High interest rates and $25,000 in debt.
For Brandon and 7 million students, loan rates have gone up, doubling because Congress failed to reach a deal on new rates. Student loan debt in America has reached staggering new levels, nearly $1 trillion, higher than car loans and even more than credit card debt.
Is it worth the amount of time and energy and debt we're in?
New York City Mayor Michael Bloomberg is among those who bluntly say it's not.
Being a plumber actually for the average person probably would be a better deal because you don't spend 4 years spending $40,000, $50,000 tuition and no income.
Brandon says a degree is essential even if he's saddled with debt.
I'm always worried. And yet I will certainly move forward with my education. I won't stop.
So why did this happen? Well, Republicans and Democrats blame each other.
Interest rates on student loans are about to double because the president and Senate Democrats won't resolve this impasse.
They're trying to use students to reduce the deficit, but in the end, again, nothing reduces the deficit more than investing in education.
A congressional report estimates that the higher interest rates would add about $4,500 to the average cost of a four-year degree. Rich? All right, Andrew, thank you very much. Let's bring in our panel tonight. Jeannie Zaino, professor of political science from Iona College. Got the college perspective on this one. Bill O'Reilly, the good one, a Republican consultant and executive vice president at NLO Strategies, columnist at Newsday as well, and Andrew Whitman, who you met before. And Jeannie, all joking aside here, we're over $1 trillion now at last count that's out there. It's more than credit card debt, car loans, all the rest. And it's on the backs of these kids or the backs of their parents. And it's really changing the way and the decisions they make as soon as they leave the college campus and what they can do. Talk about the reality if interest rates double and they stay doubled once they come back to campus at the end of August, beginning of September.
No, it's not a joke at all. This is a very serious and very troubling development. You know, you have kids, more and more kids or young adults going to college than ever before. This doubling will impact those least able to pay. You also have a very high unemployment rate for young people, and you have people leaving with more and more debt. As you mentioned, $1 trillion in student loan debt as we look at this. So this is a recipe for disaster. And while in the piece they talked about using it to pay down the deficit, the problem is going to be if you have more people defaulting because interest rates go up, you're not going to save yourself any money. And so for my mind, and the kids that we see on a daily basis are young people, they seem like kids to me. They're very young. This is a very troubling development. You know, I think about my own children. I think about the people who are just starting their freshman year in September. you're going over 6% interest rate. That is an enormous, as Andrew mentioned, $5,000. That is an enormous amount of money at a time when college costs have skyrocketed. So
and really, I mean, people know this at home here, but I guess I'm saying that for many, it's the straw that could break the back here. I mean, they're just making do. Tuition's going up so high at so many schools. You add this on top, they start to make different decisions. Maybe I'm going to a college. Maybe it's not as good as a college I can get to, but maybe it's a little bit more affordable. Maybe I don't go to college. So what Mayor Bloomberg had to say there, Bill, which says, you know what? Maybe a plumber, and this is no shot at plumbers, maybe that's a better call than dropping 40, 50 grand a year in college with all this debt hanging overhead here. And then it's got all the social consequences. But it's really starting to be a math decision. What was a given for us? You aspire, you go to college, you get a degree. Now people are thinking twice about it.
I mean, I think the real crisis here, as demonstrated by this particular story in the Stafford loans, is the paralysis in Washington. That everything is politicized. But just for some perspective on the Stafford loans, we're talking about the interest rate has now gone up. We're talking about just $6 a month extra in those costs. That's what it comes down to, is $6 a month extra. Which is not a lot, but these are the very poorest Americans that are going through school, and it's this $6 and another $6 and a 20 and a 50 and an 80, and it all adds up. The crisis of the cost of education in the country threatens to take down the whole education structure, the whole college structure. You're talking about bringing, the so-called MOOCs, the massive online, open courses. People are questioning the entire higher education system in the country.
But that's really a much longer view question.
It's a longer view.
In the short term, I mean, figuring out a way to get more kids to go to college who want it. I mean, the mayor's comments about plumbers, yeah, we need lots of plumbers, but that should be by choice, not because you can't afford to get into college and all.
I guess what I'm saying about Stafford is that this is to some extent a fabricated issue, where the Democrats used it very effectively last time to freak people out about college loans, and now the Republicans are frankly doing the same thing. They're playing tit for tat on this. It comes down to $6 a month, which is not nothing, but it's not.
Well, you use the number $5 grand.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's the average loan, and that's the average impact.
Over 10 years. Over 10 years, that's
but how long
paid.
do most people keep their student loans for? I mean, that's
the
issue.
New York Times did a piece on this in May of 2012. $6 a month was the number.
What I'd like to get to is it's not just how do they make the nut, how do they pay the semester cost, but Andrew, it's longer term things. I saw people talking about the forecasting of this, and it's not, I guess, a newsflash, but when you put it maybe into a broader context, it delays when they can buy a house. Mm-hmm. It delays when they want to, what kind of a job they're going to get. They're going to take the first job they can get that'll pay them something. They don't have time to try and find something that fits the major perfectly unless they're extremely lucky, as you said. It also delays when they can start a family. Mm-hmm. You got to have two incomes. Now, many people choose to work here. God bless them for it. But if they want to stop and raise a family and either go back to work or stay at home with the kids, that choice might be off the table for a lot of people because you got to put food on the table here, and you need two salaries to do it, especially if you've got these outstanding liabilities with these kind of student loans that are hanging out there. Even seeing things like you can speak about to majors in college. People don't take the arts anymore that they used to take in the same numbers. It's making a lot of decisions for people in terms of bottom lines, in terms of life planning, and in terms of maybe choices that they'd like to make. Choices are being made for people.
Yeah, and I was just listening to a story about how the Obamas themselves have just finished paying off their student loans. Quite frankly and embarrassingly, I am still paying off student loans. That's how young I am, Richard.
You graduated 3 years ago.
It's actually how old I am. I went to school at a time when college was much less expensive. It took out far fewer, a lot less debt than a lot of these young people are going to do. That is a very scary proposition for young people to say, I could be paying off my debts till I'm 40, 50, 55, 60 years old. And so, what are they going to choose to do? They're going to make choices about majors. They're going to make choices about family planning. They're going to make choices about employment, choices about houses, mortgages, or some of those choices will be made for them. Or quite frankly, like Mayor Bloomberg said, they'll opt out of college.
Because face it, if you want to get into certain disciplines, you need a master's degree. It used to be in our generation, you go to good undergrad school, you're not set, but you're on the right path here. And if you wanted to go to a state or a public university versus a private one, that was a choice you made. Economics were part of it. Now, everything, I was shocked at how much, SUNY is a great deal, but still, how much a SUNY is. You go to state universities. Our friends in New Jersey, where you have to pay to go to Rutgers, for example. All good educations here, but they used to be the bargains.
And
No
all
way.
this shackles our young people, and this is an argument that might appeal to you, Bill. It stops a certain amount of entrepreneurism. It stops people from going out and forging their own